Hello, Divorce and Beyond family. I've got some exciting news because we have teamed up with Headspace to guide you toward better mental health. With Headspace's meditation, mindfulness tools, and mental health support, you're set for a journey to a happier, healthier you. And there's more because if you sign up through our exclusive link, you'll enjoy 2 weeks of Headspace membership for free. So don't miss out on this opportunity to embrace your well-being. You can check out the show notes for the link or just go to divorcebeyond.com/headspace-Susan. And you'll be able to start your path to peace and joy today. This is just one more way that we can support you on your journey to a better beyond.
Coming up on today's episode of the Divorce and Beyond podcast.
If you're the one that's about to ask for a divorce, how you set the tone determines how you're going to move through that process and the amount of conflict that you will have in the process. And as we all know, the more conflict, the harder the divorce. So how you set the tone from day one really, really matters.
Hello, and welcome to the Divorce and Beyond podcast. I'm Susan Guthrie, your host. As a top divorce attorney and family law mediator for 30 years, I know what you need to know to get through your divorce, and most importantly, how to move beyond it to thrive and transition to your new future. My experts and I are here to give you the insider view into the process, so listen in for the wisdom and expert information you need on your journey through divorce and beyond. Welcome to today's podcast. I'm Susan Guthrie, your host, and as we step into January, which is often recognized as Divorce Month, today's episode is especially timely. We're going to be diving into divorce, day one, what you need to know, and the tech that can help. Joining me will be Tamara Rowles. She's an accomplished attorney and the creator of the Divorce Wave app, which supports individuals navigating the complexities of divorce. Tamara combines her deep legal expertise with a passion for helping people manage the emotional challenges of divorce. And if you are in the early days of your divorce, you know what I'm talking about when I say emotional challenges. Today on the show, she's going to share her vital insights on the initial steps to take when considering a divorce and how to handle the waves of emotion that inevitably come with it. Whether you're contemplating divorce or are already in the midst of the process, this episode is designed to equip you with the tools and the confidence to manage the journey ahead. So let's get started and learn how to approach this transformative period with strength and clarity. So, Tamara, thank you so much for joining me today here for a very busy time of year for all of us divorce professionals.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here. And yeah, Divorce Month, it's a terrible name, isn't it? But it happens to be true.
It's one of those things, Divorce Month, it sounds like everybody's running off to the courthouse like on January 1st. But we do know, I've been in practice for 30 some odd years. And I have to say, January was traditionally when the phone first early in my career, when the phone started ringing with people, it's not that they're filing right now. It's that they start to look for information. Like, what is divorce? What does this mean? Because I think this is in my 2025 or 2026 or beyond, right?
Yeah. And we know that people are struggling to get through the holidays. And of course, if you've got kids, you don't want to ruin the holidays for them. But by the time January comes around with all of that built up stress, we know that's when people start thinking about divorce. And yeah, they start the information collecting phase. And it can be overwhelming with all of the information that's out there to know where to begin on that day one.
Yeah. Yeah. Mostly they pick up that phone, or now these days they send an email or go to YouTube perhaps, or a podcast like this one. Good job,
Right.
everyone, to get their information. But as you said, it's overwhelming. Divorce is not a simple process. It involves a variety of different modalities that come together. You know, you've got very practical issues like who's going to live where, who's going to get what, who's going to pay what, where are the kids going to be. You've got your children's emotional and financial well-being, as well as your own and your spouse's. And then I think at the beginning of divorce, and this is one of the reasons why I tell people a coach is really one of the most important first hires for your team, is the emotions are usually all over the place.
Yes, the emotions are running wild, and divorce emotions are kind of waves. They come, they arise, they take over. You feel like you're crashing, and then you start living your life again, and it kind of comes in those waves. And I think that's where a lot of us start this process. And so to know how to handle those waves as they come, I think it's the emotional piece that is really hard for people to understand through this process. They struggle with it. It's normal. It's all part of the process of trying to figure out what your next big move is. And it's a huge decision.
It's a huge, and you're going to have a million of them that you need to make, right? Throughout this process. But I love your wave analogy, and it's making me think of, somebody who's standing on the beach right now, dipping their toes into the ocean, right? They're dipping their toes into what does divorce look like? They're dipping their toes into that ocean. And the waves that are coming at them right now, which might be information, are huge, right? And the waves that are coming at them right now that are their emotions, they're huge. These aren't little ripples that are like, sort of splashing against your knees. These are the ones that can knock you down. And the waves will change as you go through the process. But what we know for people is the ones at the very beginning are big ones. And they are potentially going to knock you down if you don't have the right mindset and the right support to stand up as they come crashing over you.
Exactly.
So why don't you tell me, from your perspective, with your, really diverse background, what you see? I know you sort of see divorce as, a complex process that has these variety of different challenges that come at people.
Yeah. And I think those big questions, do I hire a lawyer? Do I ask to move out? Do I ask for a divorce? Those are the big questions. But even before you get there, I think the key question that people need to ask themselves is, how do I want to show up for this process? Because how you show up for this process determines everything. How you set the tone, if you're the one that's about to ask for a divorce, how you set the tone determines how you're going to move through that process and the amount of conflict that you will have in the process. And as we all know, the more conflict, the harder the divorce. So how you set the tone from day one really, really matters. And I found that that's one of the hardest things for people to do because they're struggling with all of the logistics. They're struggling with all of the financial worries, all of these worries. It's really hard to take a step back and say, okay, how do I show up? How do I move through this process? What do I need to do to get my head in the game and to get my mindset in the right place? So for my clients, I kind of developed what I call the 4 noble truths of divorce. And I know every divorce is different, but there are a lot of similar phases, and we all end up in this place because of these 4 noble truths. So is it okay if I go through them?
Yeah. Let's dive into the truths, because I think it's very important. Let me just say before we get to it, I think it's very important for people to understand that, because I suspect a lot of listeners who are in the early days of thinking the process is coming at them, they're like, well, I know how I feel. I know how I want to show up. I'm pissed as hell because he or she did this or he or she did that. And so I want to show up and I want to fight, or I'm hurt, or I'm angry, or I'm fearful. I mean, those tend to be
betrayed.
Or betrayed, right? Those, which leads to angry and resentful, right? But that is how most people who are in these early days are feeling. And in their mind, often, when we talk to them, because we talk to so many people on these early days, they're perfectly fine with showing up that way. So I do want to ask you why it's not perhaps the best idea, or why they may want to spend a little time working on thinking about how they want to show up. Before we dive into the Four Noble Truths, because they're really sort of take that there. But, I know people are out there right now going, why are we even talking about this? I'm angry, or I'm hurt, or I'm fearful, and I know how I want to show up.
And anger is definitely one way to go.
And we see a lot of people do it.
That'll get you there. That'll get you to the finish line. But strategically, for both your mental well-being and also strategically in your divorce, anger is not where you want to make complicated decisions from. Because as we all know, anger is where we become the most irrational. And divorce, it requires energy. It requires everything you've got. And if you need to show up, if you show up in an angry way, you're going to get back anger. You're going to get back conflict. You're going to get back more fees, more stress, more time. Your divorce is going to take that much longer because you have to fight over everything. So if you can pull back and say, okay, I'm angry, and you have every right to be angry. I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
It's an angry inducing process.
Yes.
But if you can pull back and say, I'm angry and I am still going to show up for this strategically. I'm going to protect my interests. I'm going to find my voice. I'm going to feel empowered, confident, and the pie in the sky is I'm going to show up with integrity. That is how you get through divorce, leaving your family intact on the other side. That is how you get through divorce, feeling like you tried everything, you gave it your all, and you have less guilt and shame on the other side. Because if you go through the process in anger, it's going to sustain you. It will. But getting to the other side when that process ends, you're still going to have to come to terms with the fact that your marriage ended, that it failed, that you're still feeling like crap. And you're not going to learn from this process. And we know as divorce professionals, we actually get worse at marriage the second time around. The scary statistic is in second marriages and third marriages, they fail even more than first marriages because we get worse at it. So if you decide from the very beginning, okay, this is going to suck, but I have an opportunity to move through this process with integrity and civility and respect, then on the other side, you come out that much stronger, that much wiser, and more ready for your better next chapter, which you deserve.
Talk about my golden nuggets that I love that people share. That was perfect, because what I hope people are hearing that are listening is getting your mindset straight and working through how you want to show up for your divorce is a gift to yourself and a gift to your children. And this is why one of the things I always say to people is, when you think you're going to just dive into those waves and start your divorce process, the first thing I want you to do is, sit back down on the beach and work on those emotions, get that coach. So now let's dive into those four noble truths of divorce. I love how you've broken this down.
Thank you. Okay, so the first noble truth is that none of us arrive at this phase of life without having made mistakes. I've been there too.
Yeah. Me too.
I made lots of mistakes. And those mistakes tend to start early with not recognizing your truth, not following red flags. So none of us get to this point where we're about to get divorced or where we're thinking about divorce without having made mistakes. Number two is that in order to learn and grow from those mistakes, so we don't repeat them, we need to do the work. I'll just leave it at that.
Yes. Well, we'll dive into it a little bit more. But a lot of people, this is where we hear, and I think it's important actually to talk about this. If you don't do the work, you stay stuck. This goes back to what you were saying about second marriages and third marriages, right? If you don't do the work, you don't acknowledge your mistakes, and you don't, as one of my friends, Ben Heldfond, said in his episode, you got to clean up your side of the street.
Exactly.
You got to own it, and you got to clean up your side of the street, or you'll just keep doing the same thing over again. So for all of you out there who are thinking, oh my God, do work, This is getting divorced is hard enough without adding more work to it. Again, This goes back to the gift for you, the gift so you move on to your beyond.
It is. Yes. And doing the work, it's not easy, but it can be done, and it can be done by yourself. And that is the solitary work that needs to be done. So number 3 is doing the work requires us to shift our mindset, because everything you've been doing up to this point hasn't quite been serving you. If your marriage is failing, what you've done so far hasn't been working. So doing the work requires you to shift your mindset. And the 4th noble truth is that self-examination, which some of us call mindfulness, sorry to throw that word into the mix, but self-examination is the key to shifting our mindset. And that's what it's really about. So the mindfulness comes from journaling. It comes from sitting with yourself in contemplation. It comes from really looking in the mirror and saying, how did I get here? And where do I want to go? That's the even more important question. Where do I want to go?
And for so many people, again, in that early phase, as we are right now, for so many who are listening, very often, I think what we see as the professionals is people are not focused on themselves at all in this phase. They are focused on what their spouse did wrong and what went wrong in the past. So it's sort of a twofold thing. It's like all looking back, all looking at things that cannot be changed, right? Looking at history and looking for how they can blame their partner. And I'm not saying there's not reasons. You said it earlier, right? Divorce is an anger.
Yeah.
Divorce is an anger-inducing process in many, many ways. But the focus is always on the other person. And what you're talking about here, really to make progress and to move forward, is shifting that focus inside and to ourselves and to the future. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do?
Yes, because it takes 2 people to enter a marriage, and it takes 2 people to break a marriage. And the only way we really grow is to look at ourselves, because we can't control what the other person did. And if we don't want to be married to them anymore, we don't care what they did anymore. But we do care about us. We need to care about us. And so the only way to really shift, to grow, to learn from this experience, and to have an opportunity to have a better next chapter is to look inward and to do that inner work. Again, it's simple, but it's not easy.
It is simple. It isn't easy. You mentioned earlier, you can do it yourself, but a little support can be very, very, very helpful, right? And that is one of the reasons why I'm always suggesting getting a coach, just because for many of the people who are listening, some of the things we're talking about right now are not things that they've ever thought about when it comes to divorce. Why are we talking about me? This really is, because all they've been thinking about is, what's gone wrong, who did what wrong.
Right.
And so one of the things that you're so dedicated to, and it comes out of, I think, your own personal experience, and both professionally and then through your own divorce experience, is how to provide that support and how to do it from day one.
The support is a huge piece. That's why I love that you always recommend that people hire a divorce coach. Divorce coaches can be instrumental in helping you think about these things. And if you're going through a divorce, you're really busy working with your divorce coach on the divorce itself. So you often don't have a lot of time to focus on these things that we're talking about in a divorce coaching session. But you can do it on your own, and you can do it with support. That's why I created the Divorce Wave app, because it really does walk you through from day one how to support yourself through this process. We're not taught how to be a good partner in a relationship. And it's not until we have a failed marriage, really, that we realize that we've made mistakes and that we realize maybe we don't know everything. And to figure out why, that's how you do that. That's why you do that deep inner work, to figure out, where did I go wrong here? What were my blind spots? And that's what helps move the needle so you can start feeling better through this process. And it's not about admitting your fault, really. It's more about figuring out how you come to accept yourself again, how you come to recreate that self-love, how you cultivate the relationship with yourself again, and figure out How many pieces did I leave in the damage along the way? How can I pick up the pieces, put myself back together again so I can not only get through this process in a strong, empowered way, but also to leave this process knowing that I did everything I can and I'm ready to move on and I can do so with grace.
Hey everyone, it's Susan. So look, we know going through a divorce is tough and self-care can easily get overlooked. I wanted to share something that helped me, and that was creating a cozy space to relax. Something that can help you is Parachute Home, which is bedding and home goods that bring real comfort. Imagine ending your day wrapped in the softest sheets or a warm blanket. So if you're looking to add a bit of peace to your home, visit divorcebeyond.com/parachute. When you shop through my link, it supports the podcast, and you know how much I appreciate that. So remember, taking care of yourself is a big step forward. So check out Parachute Home and get yourself your own warm, cozy hug. Stay tuned as we dive deeper with Tamara after the break. She's going to be revealing the core principles from her Divorce Wave app that can help transform your approach to the divorce process. Plus, don't miss out on an exclusive offer just for our listeners from Tamara. We're talking substantial savings on a tool that could make all the difference during your divorce recovery. More insights, more advice right after this.
You will get through this. It might take a little while, but you will get through this. And then you've got the rest of your life to decide what to do with it. And so you might as well start creating that vision now from day one, because that's what gets you through the divorce, having that vision for a better future.
Keep tuning in to Divorce and Beyond throughout January as we explore more crucial divorce month topics. Next up, we'll be tackling how to handle divorcing a high conflict individual and share strategies for managing your new co-parenting relationship so that your children can thrive. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode of your journey through divorce. Stay informed, stay empowered.
And now we return to today's show.
This process is a time where you have to extend grace to your soon-to-be former spouse, certainly to your children, but you most importantly need to extend grace to yourself, because this can be the place, right, where people feel, I hear that word, failed marriage, or those words, failed marriage, right? And that's how so many people feel as they're going into this process, as a marriage or a relationship that has failed or that they have failed. And in reality, I think it's a little more complicated than that. But in order to move forward, as I think is so important about what you're talking about, is that sometimes and most often we need to look within and do that work within that you've talked about so that we can not get to the same place that we find ourselves today, right? Because we have that tendency to repeat those patterns. And frankly, even if the divorce or the marriage ending or the relationship not working was 99% the fault of your spouse, there's still 1% of you that got you into that relationship or stayed in that relationship or thought you could change them or whatever those things are that get us, to the place that we are. And that's what you get to work on. And you've really broken it down. You know how much I love, first of all, technology. I think we live in a society these days where the more accessible support and help is critical, especially at a time where, as you said earlier, we are absolutely overwhelmed with information and resources and all of the different things that are available to us. I mean, technology is great because it means we have the world at our fingertips, but it
Right.
also can mean that overload is even worse. So you've created, Divorce Wave, which is a beautiful name and makes me so happy just thinking about
Thank
it,
you.
because I see it, in the repetitive motion of waves, and the fact that some can feel like tidal waves and others can be gentle ripples across your toes as you stand in the tide pool. Right? We're trying to get you to the tide pool, everybody, and away from those tidal waves. But you've broken it down into waves that help people. So explain a little bit the process that people will go through in the app as they go through your waves.
Sure. Well, Divorce Wave solves a few problems. One we talked about is that it's hard to open up to somebody when you're feeling so low. So Divorce Wave allows you to do the work in private at your own pace. And what it does is it has audio waves for pretty much any situation that you can think of in your divorce. So say, for example, you get a really angry text from your ex. There's a 5-minute wave that you can listen to that calms you down and that refocuses your effort. So you can respond not in a reactive way, but as your wiser, calmer, less reactive self. So it does that. And it also provides education, strategy, tips for things that you can be thinking about as you move through this process. But for the most part, it really is sort of your personal on-demand 24/7 divorce coach. And not everybody can afford therapy. Not everybody can afford a divorce coach. When you're thinking about splitting two households into one, it's very scary. So it's a divorce coach, but at an affordable price point. And it really does walk you through this process. And any emotional wave that comes up, there's something there for you that you can listen to and help yourself process that emotion and then emerge a little bit stronger, a little bit wiser, a little less scared of what to do next.
Well, and it's actually, for the process that one's going through, the thing that we know that will happen throughout your divorce is that you're going to be continually triggered, right? You are continually going to find yourself in moments and times that something's going to happen, or something's going to be said, or something will go on that is going to trigger some negative emotion in you. And it's just a constant. We know it, we see it, we've both lived through it. And our reaction is normally to immediately respond in our in that moment of fear, flight, anger, whatever those things are.
Right.
And
we've all done it.
We've all done it. And we've all wished we hadn't done it, right? When we've had a chance to calm down and look at it. So one of the things I love about the app is that it basically builds in a pause, right? Because the idea being, when one of these moments happens, the trigger occurs. And this isn't the only use of the app, but this is one of the ones that I think people can immediately find, that will resonate for them is, hey, they do something, you get a nasty gram from your ex. Mm-hmm. And you want to fire off a nastier gram right back. Human nature. I agree. I want to do that. Instead, you can go listen to a wave. In fact, I know you have one specifically on that topic, right?
Exactly. Yes. You go listen to a wave and you get your mind on straight again.
So, you get your brain back.
Right. Because there's this quote that I love, and it's speak in anger and you'll make the biggest speech that you've ever regretted. But I like to say, if you speak in anger during divorce, you'll make the most expensive speech you'll ever regret. Because that means they're firing off emails to their attorney. They're firing off motions. Every time you speak in anger, that could cause your attorney's fees to ratchet up just that much more. So you have to watch yourself. So strategically, it's not about making yourself feel better, making yourself feel self-righteous in response. And you might be right. You very much might be right and entitled to that response. Yep. But strategically, it's going to cost you. So in order to help yourself, you need to get your head on straight. And that's what That's what the app does. It helps you get your head on straight. It also has journaling exercises to walk you through some of these really deep questions. There's movement waves. So if you're feeling angry, you can get out for a walk or a jog and listen to this wave that walks you through that anger and actually uses that anger to fuel your body. So there's all kinds of other things on the app too. But I do think that that's one of the really big drawing points, is that there's something in there. So when you are triggered in the moment, instead of firing off that text, navigate to the app, bring it up, give yourself 5 minutes, and you'll feel better, and you won't respond in a way that's going to cost you.
You might not respond at all, which is one of the things, right? Every time that somebody sends you something doesn't mean you always have to respond to it. But I do think that it's important that people understand. So this isn't just a technology that is there to support you when, the triggers happen. It is also the tool and guidance that you need to do what you were talking about earlier, the work, right? It's got, you mentioned journaling, you mentioned exercise or ways to deal with anger, et cetera. So say you were a new user, we were talking to a new user who had gone to, divorcewave.com and downloaded the app. Where would they be starting as they sit here in divorce month, trying to get everything in their head set straight?
So they would be starting with, if they're still considering divorce, they would be starting with the exploratory phase. And we have everything categorized by phases. So there's ways to navigate it, but this is one of the easiest ways. So we have exploring divorce. We have phase 1, which is a new reality. That's when you've just been served with the papers and you have no idea what to do. And by the way, the app is for people that are asking for a divorce and also those that are on the receiving end. And it's for men and women. It's gender neutral. So it is for everybody. And it's in every phase it covers. So there's the exploring the divorce. There's the first new reality. The second is managing the process. This is dealing with the attorneys, making sure you're not getting stuck, dealing with the logistics of separating households. Third is finding peace. And that's dealing with a lot of the heavy emotions and a lot of that, laying the groundwork for some of that inner work. And then the last is moving forward. And that, of course,
beyond.
You're beyond. It's
beyond.
Ways designed to help you figure out, are you ready to date again? And what does that look like? And envisioning and creating the future, because you will get through this. It might take a little while, but you will get through this. And then you've got the rest of your life to decide what to do with it. And so you might as well start creating that vision now from day one, because that's what gets you through the divorce, having that vision for a better future.
It's actually, I think, one of the most critical points to help you through your divorce. Why go through the divorce and then start creating your beyond when the divorce is final? Why not put that thought and effort into thinking about what you want your beyond to look like? And as you make decisions, as you said earlier, right, you're going to make so many decisions and agreements in your divorce settlement and just about how you're going to move forward. Make them knowing where you're going. So those decisions support the future that you want to have. But again, most people spend their time during divorce looking backwards. And it's really much better when you can look forward. So that's the other aspect of the divorce wave that you've created, is it really has content there to help everyone no matter where they are. And the other thing that I loved about your name, one of my favorite quotes is Jon Kabat-Zinn.
Oh, yes.
He wrote, wherever you go, there you are, which is, a great name. It's a meditation, one of the first meditation and mindfulness books I ever read. But the quote from him is, you can't change the waves, but you can learn how to surf. And so really, I see the divorce wave as surf lessons for people to be riding those waves of divorce that come along, right? It's the different size boards. It's got your wetsuits in there, and hopefully the really cute surf instructor who's helping you, along the way. It's all in the app for people.
And that's what we call them. We call them surf lessons. And I want to echo the point that you made before. I think when most people get to the divorce, they're looking backward and they're looking outward. And what they need to be doing is looking forward and inward. And so that's what the surf lessons, that's what the waves are designed to do, to keep them looking in the right direction.
For the app, I know that people can go check it out. There's a lot of free content there. They can see what they think of the waves. Many of them are available free. But for those who are, especially I would say those who are in the early days, but it doesn't really matter where you are in the divorce process. This, as you said, is designed to help people throughout. You have a really amazing offer for Divorce and Beyond listeners who would like to sign up for a year-long membership. So if you can share the details on that, I want to make sure people hear it.
Yeah. So for your listeners, I have a great offer. Membership is usually $49.99 for 3 months and $129.99 for 12 months. But for your listeners with the code BEYOND, and I'm sure you're going to put that in the show notes.
I am.
With the code BEYOND, they can get a full year of Divorce Wave for $44.99. And that is less than 1/10 of an hour of an attorney's time. So you've got hopefully $44.99 to invest for the next year into having a better divorce and to riding your wave.
Riding your wave. Go get your surf suit, your wetsuit, your longboard, and whatever else you might need to help you through this process. That is a wonderful offer, and it makes this so reasonably available to people who are going into what we know is a financially insecure time for so many. So I greatly appreciate that on behalf of my listeners. And I really appreciate what you've done, because what you've done is take, so many different aspects of the divorce process, thought them through, again, both from that personal perspective of having experienced them, but also as a divorce professional who has worked both as an attorney and a mediator and a coach, and put them all together to give the tools to the people who truly need them. And so again, in this month of Divorce Month in January, or whenever you're listening to this episode, Divorce Wave is here to help you do what you need to do to show up as your best self for the divorce, and most importantly, your beyond. Thank you so much, Tamara.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really excited about it. Divorce Wave is the soundtrack I wish I had when I was getting divorced. And I'm an attorney, and it was still very challenging and very difficult. So I understand where people are. It's rough. It's rough. But with a little support and a little guidance, you've got this.
You've got this. And it can be a lot less rough with the right support. So go get on the wave, everyone, and check out Divorce Wave. It's divorcewave.com. And again, I'll have the show notes. We'll have all of the information for you. So thank you so much. And
thank you,
Happy
Susan.
New Year to you.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year. And I look forward to your next chapter.
That's right. Oh my goodness. How could I almost forget? So before I let you go, as my listeners know, in the new year, I'm going to be launching the Turns Out podcast, because I think everyone has a turns out moment or moments in their lives. And I've been asking some guests who don't mind being put on the spot if they might share one of their turns out moments for the listeners. They get an idea of what the new show is going to be about.
Yeah, I love the concept for the show, because we all do have a turns out moment. I think for me, mine is nobody sets out to get divorced. I certainly didn't. But throughout my life, I had these little threads. I lived in China and I studied Eastern philosophy. I started a little podcast. I became a lawyer. I became a mediator. I had all of these little threads that didn't quite add up. And then finally, I go through a divorce, and all of those threads come together to really remind me, oh, this is my purpose. So now with Divorce Wave, I've taken all of those threads. I've created something out of it that I hope will help people. And that's my turns out moment, that it took that lifetime of experience to figure out, what am I doing? And to bring it all together in a way that actually makes sense, not just for me, but what I hope is for a larger audience.
Well, turns out going down all those different roads and being
right.
a lifelong learner, as you have been, has turned out to be a wonderful thing for my listeners and for those facing divorce who find divorce waves. So again, thank you so much. And thank you for sharing a turns out moment for my listeners. Thank you for joining me today on the Divorce and Beyond podcast. I hope you found some information and inspiration to help you on this journey. Please join me every Monday at 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for a new episode. And if you like the show, please take the time to subscribe and leave me a 5-star review on iTunes. You can also find more information on the website at divorceandbeyondpod.com, where you'll find links to the YouTube channel, transcripts of the episodes, and other bonus content. So I'll see you next week to help you move through your divorce and beyond.